lot of people that are scared to go die. Couple of them thinking they'll be living in the sky. While I'm here living, man, I gotta ask why. What am I here for? I gotta figure out.
Chapter 19. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Here is another legal requirement commanded by the Lord. Tell the people of Israel to bring you a red heather or heifer, a perfect animal that has no defects and has never been yoked by a plow. Give it to Eleazar the priest, and it will be taken outside the camp and slaughtered in his presence. Eleazar will take some of its blood on his fingers and sprinkle it 7 times toward the front of the tabernacle. As Eleazar watches, the heifer must be burned, its hide, meat, blood, and dung. Eleazar the priest must then take a stick of cedar, a hoppus branch, and some scarlet yarn, and throw them into the fire where the heifer is burning. Then the priest must wash his clothes and bathe himself in water. After he may return to the camp, though he will remain ceremonially unclean until evening. The man who burns the animal must also wash his hands, clothes, and bathe himself in water, and he too will remain unclean until evening. Then someone who is ceremonially clean will gather up the ashes of the heifer and deposit them in a purified place outside the camp. They will be kept there for the community of Israel to use in the water for the purification ceremony. This ceremony is performed for the removal of sin. The man who gathers up the ashes of the heifer must also wash his clothes, and he will remain ceremonially unclean until evening. This is a permanent law for the people of Israel and any foreigners who live among them. All those who touch a dead human body will be ceremonially unclean for 7 days. They must purify themselves on the 3rd and 7th day with the water of purification. Then they will be purified. But if they do not do this on the 3rd and 7th days, they will continue to be unclean even after the 7th day. All those who touch a dead body and do not purify themselves in the proper way defile the Lord's tabernacle, and they will be cut off from the community of Israel. Since the water of purification was not sprinkled on them, their defilement continues. This is the ritual law that applies when someone dies inside a tent. All those who enter that tent and those who were inside when the death occurred will be ceremonially unclean for 7 days. Any open container in the tent that was not covered with a lid is also defiled. And if someone in an open field touches the corpse of someone who was killed with a sword or who died a natural death, or if someone touches a human bone or a grave, that person will be defiled for 7 days. To remove the defilement, put some of the ashes from the burnt purification offering in a jar and pour fresh water over it. Then someone who is ceremonially clean must take a hippos branch and dip it into the water. The person must sprinkle the water on the tent, on all the furnishings in the tent, and on the people who were in the tent. Also on the person who had touched a human bone, or touched someone who was killed or who died naturally, or touched a grave. On the 3rd and 7th days, the person who is ceremonially clean must sprinkle the water on those who are defiled. Then the 7th day, the people being cleansed must wash their clothes and bathe themselves, and that evening they will be cleansed from their defilement. But those who become defiled and do not purify themselves will be cut off from the community, for they have defiled the sanctuary of the Lord. Since the water of purification has not been sprinkled on them, they remain defiled. This is a permanent law for the people. Those who sprinkle the water of purification must afterward wash their clothes, and anyone who then touches the water used for purification will remain defiled until evening. Anything and anyone that is defiled, that a defiled person touches, will be ceremonially unclean until evening. In the 1st month of the year, the whole community of Israel arrived in the wilderness of... chapter 20. In the 1st month of the year, the whole community of Israel arrived in the wilderness of Zin and camped at Kadesh. While they were there, Miriam died and was burned. There was no water for the people to drink at that place, so they rebelled against Moses and Aaron. People blamed Moses and said, "If only we had died in the Lord's presence with our brothers. Why have you brought the congregation of the Lord's people into this wilderness to die along with all our livestock? Why did you make us leave Egypt? Why did you make us leave Egypt and bring us here to this terrible place? This land has no grain, no figs, no grapes, no pomegranates, and no water to drink." Moses and Aaron turned away from the people and went to the entrance of the tabernacle, where they fell face down on the ground. Then the glorious presence of the Lord appeared to them, and the Lord said to Moses, "You and Aaron must take the staff and assemble the entire community. As the people watch, speak to the rock over there, and it will pour out its water. You will provide enough water from the rock to satisfy the whole community and their livestock." So Moses did as he was told. He took the staff from the place where it was kept before the Lord. Then he and Aaron summoned the people to come and gather at the rock. "Listen, you rebels," he shouted. Must we bring you water from this rock?" Then Moses raised his hand and struck the rock twice with the staff, and water gushed out. So the entire community and their livestock drank their fill, and their livestock drank their fill. Because the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, but the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Because you do not trust me enough to demonstrate my holiness to the people of Israel, you will not lead them into the land I am giving them." This place was known as the water of Meribah, which means arguing, because there the people of Israel argued with the Lord, and there he demonstrated his holiness among them. While Moses was in Kadesh, he sent ambassadors to the king of Edom with this message: "This is what your relatives, the people of Israel, say. You know all the hardships we have been through. Our ancestors went down to Egypt, and we lived there a long time. And we and our ancestors were brutally mistreated by the Egyptians. But when we cried out to the Lord, he heard us and sent an angel who brought us out of Egypt. Now we are camped at Kadesh, a town on the border of your land. Please let us travel through your land. We will be careful not to go through your fields and vineyards. We won't even drink water from your wells. We will stay on the king's road and never leave it until we have passed through your territory." But the king of Edom said, "Stay out of my land, or I will meet you with an army." The Israelites answered, "We will stay on the main road. If our livestock drinks your water, we will pay for it. Just let us pass through your country. That's all we ask." But the king of Edom replied, "Stay out. You may not pass through our land." With that, he mobilized his army and marched out against them with an imposing force. Because Edom refused to allow the Israelites to pass through their country, Israel was forced to turn around. The whole community of Israel left Kadesh and arrived at Mount Hor, Hor. There on the border of the land of Edom, the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "The time has come for Aaron to join his ancestors in death. He will not enter the land I am giving the people of Israel, because the two of you rebelled against my instructions concerning the water at Meribah. Now take Aaron and his son Eleazar up Mount Hor. There you will remove Aaron's priestly garments and put them on Eleazar his son. Aaron will die there and join his ancestors." So Moses did as the Lord commanded. The three men went up Mount Hor together. The whole community together as the whole community watched. At the summit, Moses removed the priestly garments from Aaron and put them on Eleazar, Aaron's son. Then Aaron died there on top of the mountain, and Moses and Eleazar went back down. When the people realized that Aaron had died, all Israel mourned for him for 30 days. Chapter 21. The Canaanite king of Arad, who lived in the Negev, heard that the Israelites were approaching on the road through Athraim, so he attacked the Israelites and took some of them as prisoners. Then the people of Israel made this vow to the Lord: If you will hand these people over to us, we will completely destroy all their towns. The Lord heard the Israelites' request and gave them the victory over the Canaanites. Excuse me. Victory over the Canaanites. The Israelites completely destroyed them and their towns, and the place has been called Amorah ever since. Then the people of Israel set out for Mount Hor, taking the road to the Red Sea, to go around the land of Edom, but the people grew impatient with the long journey, and they began to speak against God and Moses. "Why have you brought us out of Egypt to die here in the wilderness?" they complained. "There is nothing to eat here and nothing to drink, and we hate this horrible manna. So the Lord sent poisonous snakes among the people, and many were bitten and died. Then the people came to Moses and cried out, "We have sinned by speaking against the Lord and against you. Pray to the Lord. Pray that the Lord will take away the snakes." So Moses prayed for the people. Then the Lord told him, "Make a replica of a poisonous snake and attach it to a pole. All who are bitten will live if they simply look at it." So Moses made a snake out of bronze and attached it to a pole. Then Aaron, or anyone who was bitten by a snake, could look at the bronze snake and would be healed. The Israelites traveled next to Oboth and camped there. Then they went to Ayeribim in the wilderness on the eastern border of Moab. From there they traveled to the valley of Zered Brook and set up camp. Then they moved out and camped on the far side of the Arnon River in the wilderness, adjacent to the territory of the Amorites. Armanon or something is the boundary line between the Moabites and the Amorites. For this reason, the book of the Wars of the Lord speaks of the town of Wayeb in the area of Supa and the ravines of the Aron River, and the ravines that extend as far as the settlement of Ar on the border of Moab. From there, the Israelites traveled to Beer, which is the well where the Lord said to Moses, "Assemble the people, and I will give them water." There, the Israelites sang this song: "Spring up, O well, yes, sing its praise. Sing of this well, which princes dug, which great leaders hollowed out with their specters and staff." Then the Israelites left the wilderness and proceeded through Matana, Neiel, and Bemoth. After they went through the valley of Moab, where Pigahi Peak overlooks the wasteland, the Israelites sent ambassadors to King Sihon of the Amorites with this message: "Let us travel through your land. We will be careful not to go through your fields and vineyards. We won't even drink water from your wells. We will stay on the king's road until we have passed through your territory." But King Sihon refused to let them cross his territory. Instead, he mobilized his entire army and attacked Israel in the wilderness, engaging them in battle at Zahaz. But the Israelites slaughtered them with their swords and occupied their land from the Aron River to the Jabbok River. They went only as far as the Amorite border because the boundary of the Ammonites was fortified. So Israel captured all the towns of the Amorites and settled in them, including the city of Heshbon and its surrounding villages. Heshbon had been the capital of King Sihon of the Amorites. He had defeated a former Moabite king and seized all his land as far as the Aron River. Therefore, the ancient poets wrote about him, and this is the poem: "Come to Heshbon and let it be rebuilt. Let the city of Shion be restored. A fire flamed forth from Heshbon, a blaze from the city of Shion. It burned the city of Ar in Moab. It destroyed the rulers of the Aron heights. What sorrow awaits you, a people of Moab? You are finished, O worshippers of Shemon, or Chemosh. Chemosh has left his sons as refugees, his daughters as captives of Sihon, the Amorite king. We have utterly destroyed them from Heshbon to Dibon, or Didon. We have completely wiped them out as far as Naphoa and Medeba. So the people of Israel occupied the territory of the Amorites after Moses sent men to explore the Gezer area. They captured all the towns in the region and drove out the Amorites who lived there. Then they turned and marched up the road to Bashan, but King Og of Bashan and all his people attacked them at Edrei, the land. The Lord said to Moses, "Do not be afraid of him, for I have handed him over to you along with his people and his land. Do the same thing to him as you did to King Sihon of the Amorites, who ruled in Heshbon." And Israel killed King Og, spelled Og, his sons and his subjects. Not a single survivor remained. Then Israel occupied their land. Okay, guys, so that was our reading. We read chapter 20, 21. Wait, did we read chapter 19? 19, 20, and 21. So 3 chapters. It was pretty fast, 17 minutes about. So just to say real quick, this is day 50, guys. We did it. You've already read 50 days of the Bible and 183 pages. In my Bible, at least. So that's a lot. That's pretty good. It's about 3 pages a day. I'm thinking a little bit more than that, but I think that would just go into decimals. So nice job. And each page has 4 columns, as you've seen in my video Bibles, readings. Okay, so chapter 19 was, so these Israelites, they just keep complaining. They don't think God's with them, and I'm sure it's probably just because they're so tired that they get angry and, they're just mad. And so they keep complaining, and they complain in chapter 19 and 20 and even in 21. And, sorry, excuse me. So in chapter 19, they're complaining and they're saying, wow, okay, so you basically sent us here to die again. Why did you just take us out of Egypt, where we were getting food and water, but we were still being slaves? So then Moses, that's chapter 20. So chapter 20 talked about Moses striking the rock to make the water come out of the rock, as you can see in the picture that I've put up for today. So that, they're just doing all this. So then God tells Moses to strike the rock, and that's what he does, and it does exactly what God says, like it always will, and it produces water, and everybody is filled, even all their livestock and everything, basically to the brim. Like everybody's probably just full from all the water that they drink. Going back to chapter 19, this was a lot of the water purification, so where the people had to burn a heifer, Heifer. I do not know what that is. I think it's an animal, but I don't know. So they had to kill that, and they used it for basically anointing people. Instead of having just to wash their clothes, they actually have to have that sprinkled on them in order to be ceremonially clean. And then in chapter 20 and chapter 21, it was a lot about the people going through the lands of Edom and the Canaanites, and then also Shihah and Og. So they basically just take everybody. It's a slaughter. You know, it's not even like a close win. They just slaughter them, and it's a win. And it's exactly what God says. You know, and whatever God says happens. What's gonna happen? That's what's gonna happen, and that's exactly what happens. They just go through their enemies. One thing that I did want to touch on was the death of Aaron. So basically, God just says it's time for him to go to his ancestors. So he's like, yeah, Aaron's lived a long life. He's done a lot of good things. So it's time for him to basically just go see his ancestors in heaven. So they do a whole ceremony on the top of mountain. I'm trying to find the mountain name. Mount Hor, which is spelled Hor. And so, and he gives the garments to his son, which is now high priest, and his son's name is priestly garments to Aaron, and he takes them off Aaron, and he puts them on Eleazar, which is his son. So now his son's going to be high priest. So I don't know if he's the firstborn, Eleazar is the firstborn, or if he's not, but I think he would be. And God picked him to be whatever, the high priest. So that's pretty much it for today, guys. Pretty quick, 21 minutes. So thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys all tomorrow. Bye.
Thinking of me living in the sky. While I'm here living, man, I gotta ask why. What am I here for? I gotta figure out. Waste my life, no, I gotta make it count. If Christ is real, then